Well, we're here now at Marfield Lake. This is just south of St. Patrick's Well here. This is a man-made lake. This lake was dug out by hand by the Bagwell family of Marlfield House as a private lake. It took about 5 years to dig out. It was dug out between 1770 and 1775. Bagwell's, the landlords, employed 300 people with picks and shovels and manual equipment for a period of 5 years, and the clay and residue what they dug out had to be spread over the land. It was all removed by horses and carts and donkeys and carts and anything they could put under a cart. The lake is about 6 hectares, or about 15 acres. It was on the Marfield estate, so this was then stocked with fish by the Bagwell family, and this lake remained private until 1982, when the last of the Bagwells departed the Marlfield house. Today it has turned into a wild boar sanctuary. It hasn't been stocked with fish since Bagwell's left. But when it was in operation under private ownership, as I mentioned already, it was stocked with fish every year, and Bagwell's brought people from England and the continent over here on fishing trips, on private fishing trips, used as a pleasure lake. There's a boathouse here on my right hand side, about down the middle of the lake there, and that's where the boats were kept. Today, as I said, it's a wild boar sanctuary, even though it would hardly qualify as a lake by geographical standards. It has the biggest variety of birds in Ireland on it. There has been about 69 different types of birds recorded on it, from the robin and the bank to the wren to the swan to the coot to the kingfisher, herdens, cormorants, water hens, the usual, all the waterfowl. It's just a place of natural beauty. It's just not the lake itself. It's the setting here under the mountain. It was a beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful setting here. We see houses here around us today. These are all modern, but back in the 18th century, this was one of the biggest industrial areas of the country here in Marfield. In 1769, a man by the name of Stephen Moore established a mill here for the production of corn and for the production of flour. The mill at that time cost £15,000, a massive amount. It was one of the biggest mills. It was one of the biggest mills in the world at that time. It had 9 grinding stones for wheat, and it had 4 grinding stones for oatmeal. But most of this wheat and oatmeal, it wasn't exported. He had it brought to Waterford and to Dublin. Now it was brought by the river to Waterford on barges. Some of those barges were actually pulled by men before horses were employed later. And the meal was brought by horse and cart to Dublin. Most of the way they may have used rivers and places and canals, but anyway it was all kept within the country. And they also had huge ovens here, and they baked bread, and they supplied all the shops in Clonmel with biscuits and bread at that time. In 1817, a man by the name of Stein he converted the mill to a distillery, and he operated it until 1850 when he sold it to Jameson's. Now this was quite a big distillery for its time, and in the 1820s the records say that he produced 8,268 gallons per week, and it was all exported to England. I think there are some invoices still here in the village that would show that for the receipts for that whisky being sent to England. There was also an electricity generating station here at the end of the lake, and the big house, Bagwell's Marlfield house, had its own electricity supply, had its own generator, and that was in operation I think until about 1980. It was supplied by the flow from the end of the lake. So everything here, it was a huge industrial area by any standards.